Ready? Aim!
There's too many!
Anyone see my mammoth?
Stubby! Hello! We are back. I'm back. And I've had a haircut, which is expected. I hope everyone's doing well. I don't know why I've got this up. This is just some random thing I was looking up before. We're joined by Sophie.
Hi everyone, it's me back again.
Causing problems for me again.
What, they don't hear me?
No, they do. They hear you. You're just always causing me problems.
Okay.
I've decided.
This is a really interesting question posted there. Maybe let's talk about this instead.
What, the fact that it's a Tuesday and not a Monday?
No, when do you resolve the hidden traps?
Oh, God, no. We're not going to sit here and talk rules. Jesus Christ. Andrea says, happy Choose Monday. Yeah, I know, right? Choose Monday. We would have done yesterday, and I'll tell you the lie, then I'll tell you the truth. The lie is that I was unable to do Monday night, but really the truth is that Sophie couldn't do yesterday, and it would have been easier to do today. And I was expecting to be at the office after a break all day yesterday, and I thought, good, I can go to the office, come back, and all will be fine. And then I found out when I was at the office yesterday that I had to be at the office all day today as well. So I didn't win in the end. It was a nightmare. Anyway, there you go.
No need to thank me.
It's all right. I've already been up for like 14 hours or something. Freaking knackered. Right. Anyway, let's get stuck in. It's been a few minutes. It's been a little while. You've played a lot of events. I mean, the bigger thing is that you played in / helped rule on the Polish team event, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was playing referee for this event.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't want to pass up on the occasion to play in team event because it's like not something you get to do often.
No.
Like I think some other level of fun to play with your friends, and yeah, it hits different than single events. Mark from War Factory was fine with me playing and being referee. I just couldn't rule for our team, which makes sense. And yeah, we had only like two referees. The main one for the same as on the Polish Nationals last year, and me as playing. And I think we kind of managed with 120 people.
Kind of managed.
Kinda.
Yeah.
I mean, well, rule-wise, I think it went fine, but yeah, there might have been some minor organizational problems. But yeah, maybe let's just talk about the event a bit.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Yeah, so the event happened at the same place, and it's the same event as last year. It happens during the one more game board game event. So there's like whole convention going on for board games, and we just have space where we have song tables set up, and we play there. And well, when you sign up for team tournament, you get free entry to the whole event.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean the event itself was quite fun. Honestly, I kinda regretted that I was playing in team championship because the board game event was also cool. Like I wouldn't pass up on this event, but if there wasn't a championship going on, I would probably just go there to play some board game with my friends. It really grow from last year. They've also, as a result of that, moved us to some other place at the venue,
Mm-hmm.
which meant that there were less people going on around. Like you still could come see us play, but you weren't. It was also quieter for us.
Mm-hmm.
In the result, there weren't so many people around. Yeah. What do I want to say next?
Cool.
Yeah, same venue, but we did grow in the size. Last year we had only 18 teams. This year it was 30 teams. So it's nice to see the Polish some community grow that much.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't seem like we had trouble to gather those teams. Honestly, it felt to me like we could have more, but
no, yeah, I mean, in the nicest possible way, Poland has kind of proved that it can get 120 Polish players. And when I say Polish players, I don't mean 120 players. I mean 120 Polish players. It can muster in an event, right? And you had, what was it, like 4 or 5 internationals in the end? Or was it just
9, I think. 2 whole German teams and Larks playing with Team Piwnica. I think. I hope I didn't miss anyone. There are some random flags there, but I'm pretty sure those are just Polish people with different countries.
Yeah, there's probably there's 11 listed that are different, but I know one of them is listed different that isn't, and I know one of them else he's a Polish guy, but he lives in the UK, I think.
I think it might be
Ruben?
other way around.
Other way around. He's English. He lives in Poland now. Yeah. No, it's cool though. I mean, it's cool, but to have even still, 120 Polish players is not unreasonable at all. And to have 100 and call it 110 Polish players turn up for the event based on the fact that that's growth from the 70, 80 last year, 72 or something.
18 teams, so 64.
64, yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah,
so,
it's nice to see community grow, especially that, we still played 5 rounds this year and last year, and now it made more sense. We got perfect Swiss for that. So, yeah, it's perfect number of teams with this length of event. I think probably squeezing in another game there would be hard if we wanted to grow even more. But be what we would need to double in player number to have to play another round. So yeah, maybe we don't have to worry about that yet. It's nice to see so many people there because it seems like people are enjoying the patch. In fact, because for a moment in our local community, the people weren't that invested into playing, and it seems the Poland doesn't have that problem in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because we spoke about this on stream before. We spoke about it off stream before, but the impact that it's very difficult to really pin the exact reasoning behind it. But the fact that War Factory is there and interacts and is a big part of the Polish community in terms of providing product, providing kind of updates, which is the big thing, right? They actually update players with different stuff they've got coming out. And they're one of the few sources of information that we actually see in Song that isn't CMON. And we know that the information they generally send out has come through CMON, or at least through official channels. And so I think that helps a lot. To be brutally honest, I think having that presence helps. And it means that things like product, and it means that things that, while I don't care about buying product, right? It's not a big issue for me. It's a problem for players. The visibility of the game is a lot better. The whole thing, the community, the ethos, and everything regarding the game itself is a lot healthier. You only get into Song in the UK if you go to an event, you see it, or one of your friends gets you into the game. That's the only way, comparatively, that you're probably going to get into the game in the UK. And while I'm not saying that Poland's significantly different to that, it is better, and that means continued growth, which we've seen, and unfortunately, nicest possible sense, we've seen the kind of stagnation elsewhere in the world. And that's not to say that it's stagnant and we haven't got new players joining, but we're not seeing real growth in event size and real growth in new players entering, because for every person that enters, we have one leaving. I don't think that's true in Poland. I think you've got growth, which is positive.
Yeah, it does kind of feel like we are now in the same place we were last year. It's the patch came out, and now for a moment it seemed like Simon started to care about us, and then we don't hear from them.
No. no.
Yes, the cycle of Song. They just release new patch and they disappear. It's
difficult.
Sad.
It's very difficult. I mean, I've spoken to, not really about anything major, but I've spoken to Adam recently, and there's some good movement there and things, and there's some, there's some stuff going on, obviously, which we'll come to in a minute. But yeah, it's difficult because even like talking about the game in terms of like product releases, right? We look at product releases and we see we've got Winterfell Guards, Harmer's Vanguard, and what's the other one?
Stonecrow.
Stonecrow. Stonecrows, yes, not Stormcrows. Jesus, Stonecrow Mercs or Stonecrow, whatever. And that seems like a very small amount of product. And it seems like that's all we've known about, where we're now we're past 1 quarter into the year, and that's the only product that's even been on the horizon. Pillagers, yes, they technically came out, and Giant Spear Throwers is the only other real release that we've had, probably in the last 6 months, I would say. I mean, if you count Stark Vanguard as well. Umber Ravagers, sorry. Not Stark Vanguard. Jesus.
Yeah.
But like that's what, six units in 6 months, so a unit a month, which is not bad. Like that's really not bad release rates. But that's kind of all we've seen. And there's nothing on the horizon, which is the thing. I think that's the big thing at the moment, is we don't know what's expected by June, July time this year.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, the Vanguards and Winterfell Guardians haven't been released in most places.
Well, yeah, which is the other thing, isn't it? Like, we've known about them for a while now, and they haven't been released, yeah.
It's hard to be excited when you've already seen them on TTS tournaments.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I don't know. I always have some issues with keeping the game alive by releasing 2 units, because eventually you hit a point where it's just really hard to get it. Yeah.
But you're completely right. You don't keep the game alive by releasing new units at all. That's not it's not really sustainable. Of course, one of the biggest games in the world has done that consistently, which is Games Workshop in 40k. But they release so much, it's unreal, right? Like,
I mean, I feel like that's a perfect example for what I said. It's like, go try to get into your faction and try to buy everything for a single faction so much that you can field it.
Yeah.
You sometimes need a single box 6 times to play it.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. It's not, and that's not a sustainable model for playing the whole game. No one who plays 40k owns more than, people might own 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 armies, or even more than that, but no one in the right mind owns like 7 or 8 entire factions, which like that's just not feasible in 40k. So much content, especially going back so many years. Anyway, yeah, the fact that you've maintained or grown from last year, maintained a very strong showing, ultimately filled the event. And I think what the other thing is important to note is what we saw again, I believe, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but you had 120 people actually at the playing hall. It wasn't a case of having 120 people signed up and 120 people attending, but it was the fact that actually 120 people showed up on the day and played the game.
Yeah, we did. Every person that showed up to the event and played. I think there was one person dropping out for the second day, but it happens when you have 120 people at the same place.
But that's like, let's put that in context though, right? We're saying one person dropped out on a 2-day event, one person dropped out going into day 2. So you've got a less than 1% drop rate on a 2-day event. That is insanely small. Like, we talk about these, like, which we'll come to in a minute, but these 5 game days, which we see in the likes of other places in the world, for example, the US, which is the most commonly seen in the US, we see people like dropping out, and the drop rate's like 10-20%. 1% in comparison is insane.
Probably the fact that this is team event also has to do with it. It's like
Yeah.
You don't drop after a bad game because 3 other people are counting on you. It's
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
and if whole team drops out, then it's like, really bad for the event because, well, now the other whole team is not gonna play.
Mhm.
So yeah, luckily that didn't happen. And also probably because of that, people just don't sign up randomly because you have to have a team prepared. And if you find 3 other people that wanna play with you, you are usually gonna go.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. What I'll do is, I'll cover this next bit. If you go on the tournament on stats, they're all blank. Long story short, I'll let you describe the details if you particularly want to. But the organisers didn't know the best way of using the site for a team event, and also then how they would need to score it and how they need to manage it. I will explain how easy it is, guys, for anyone who's wondering the same thing. I'll explain how you can do it, but I'll let Sophie kind of go from there.
yeah, this is kind of what I said earlier. We did have some organizational issues. Like at times I felt like we are 3 different people making an event and everyone has their own vision and they don't always connect. And the stats are empty and they are going to stay this way because as it turned out, which this is something that I didn't know, we used Excel sheet for the whole, pairings and noting down scores. And what I didn't know is the fact that it doesn't take, they don't take notes of which commander you play. And when I proposed stats, I thought, okay, I can do it. I can just take the Excel sheet afterwards and fill up every game. It will take some time, but I'm willing to do it. And then the other guys agreed, and as it turned out, I cannot do it because I do not know what commanders were played in each game.
No.
Yeah,
that is, and I talk about this. I mean, when we talk about like statistic generation and things like this is actually one of the things that I think people missed back in the day when we ran the very first online NRG event. Before we could really properly track some elements of detail, we didn't have things like unit stats and stuff back then. If anyone remembers the site from back in the day, we only did factions and commanders. And the site did factions and commanders, and that was fine. That was absolutely fine. But we wanted a bit more of an in-depth kind of like performance ranking on components back then. This is back in 1.6, and people don't perhaps realise this, but we had to write out every list in a certain format that was submitted for the event. And I'm not joking. It was like, well, I mean, the first TTS event was 64 players, I think, or close to 64 players. I can't remember. 120 lists or something is what I ended up writing out by hand in a certain format for it to pass, and then off the back of that, running kind of like you extract the wins and losses based on the rounds, and it would extract the data from all of this and work out all the different win rates of everything that's going on. And it's a massively complex spreadsheet. Well, not that complex, but just a massive spreadsheet that does all of this for you. But in the end of the day, we were able to say, right, the performance of Gregor, the mountain that rides, in this tournament was this. The impact of Rickon was this. Now, that's what stats does nowadays. Now, stats does all that. But actually recording it manually using like an Excel spreadsheet that you've got there, if you're just going to do the bare minimum of recording a tournament, you almost don't need Excel. Like, that is actually how comparatively easy it is. It's just people use Excel because it does some things for them. It's crazy what you can do, and I mean it's why we use stats in the way that we do it nowadays. For those of you that are looking to run a team event and want some guidance, I'll give you a very quick rundown. First of all, as a general kind of piece of advice for any tournament organisers out there, give a longer period of time between the games. For obvious reasons, you have to give the team captains time to pair the teams who's going to be playing who, right? That's just an obvious kind of addition that you don't get in singleton games and singleton events. So give that extra time. But whatever extra time you're giving them for that pairing, give yourself an extra 10 minutes on top, right? This might mean you only play 3 rounds a day, or 3 rounds, 2 rounds, or 4 rounds, 3 rounds if you can really fit it in. But 4 rounds, 2 rounds is probably your kind of pushed limit there. During that period of time, you know, let's say I've got Sophie and person B. They're the 2 captains and they're doing a pairing. What they would do is they've done their pairing, they've hashed out who's playing who. I don't care, I don't know. That's just the 2 teams playing each other for round 1. She would then bring that kind of script to me and she'd say, this is who we've got playing against who. And I go, cool. And all you do in your round is rather than manually draw, rather than automatically draw the round, you manually pair those 4 players against each other. Or those 8 players, sorry, those 4 pairings. You manually put them in. And then you're at table 5. And the next pairs come over and they've handed their pairing in. And table 5, 6, 7, and 8 will be teams 3 and 4 playing against each other. And then you've got the next pair. So you end up actually with the round tabling. Table 1, 2, 3, 4 is your first pairing. 5 through 8 is your second pairing. So then you don't have to worry about how people are doing. Because you can then go to the round score, and we'll use a tournament like this one here, which is convenient. And you know that table 1, 2, 3, and 4 are the 4 tables that you want to look at for a given pairing. And then you can very quickly look and see the record of each player on there. You can also see the results, obviously, of those tables. That is the bit where you need to do your calculation. And use Excel if you want, or you can do it on a piece of paper, is actually fine. Because all you need to do then is establish which team has won from these 4 tables and which team has lost. Then you go down and you look at the next 4.
I'll just add at this point, it's not so simple when you have 30 teams competing to just know to which team won, because then you have tiebreakers. You need to know the whole score, and
you can
just to point out, it's not so easy. Oh, I'll do it on a piece of paper in the free time. Yeah,
sure. I think the difference is because you've got all of them here. For example, I've just used this as an example piece, guys. Just don't use this event as a kind of like telltale sign. But I could just take the top 4 tables and I can see we've got Exodius, Bob, Bernard, Nubman, and Bunker, who, by the way, this is a team event, and this is how this team event's being done online. This is actually a 5-player team event, so just bear that in mind. I would just read this and say, right, that person's on 3-3, 2-1, 3-3, 19, 1-1, 13, 3-2, 15. I just add those 4 sets of numbers together for the tiebreakers. And that is what you would do, and that's kind of like the method you could use for doing a team tournament. And the cool thing is, of course, if you go to later rounds, I'll have to go down to some results here. Later rounds, you just use this number here if you need to, because this is the individual's total so far in the event. So it actually is already mapping that entire player's total for you. So you don't have to go through and add up every game. You just take their existing total and use that. Which is very handy for people who didn't know that. And yeah, that's how you do it. That's how, if you're doing it live. And that does take a few minutes, because once you've got the results coming in, you then need to make sure you pair them correctly, but pairing them using the team format document. It doesn't take too long once you've got the results coming in, because you're not doing this at the end of the round. You can do this mid-round when you've got games already starting to finish. You can already start accumulating these things. Work out who the winners are, work out who the losers are, work out the next pairings, give the pairings to the players and go, right, this team versus this team, and then set those teams away. And as those teams finish their pairings, get the pairings into stats. Once every team has got their pairings sorted, you draw the round, which they already know. They've already probably set some stuff up. Maybe he's gone to the right tables, whatever they might do. Then they can go onto stats, log the games, do everything there manually or automatically for you. And it does lower the amount of legwork you need to do. And by all means, if you want a spreadsheet or a pen and pad paper, whatever you want to do for that, I mean, spreadsheet will do some of this great for you on top of it. For the moment, I think in the future, I'm not going to commit to anything. But Carlo might be bringing some team stuff out in the future, given that it's become a little bit more popular. And there is some ways of doing team scoring that I think he's kind of like looked at. But ultimately, if we were to change the way it's done right now and change the way team scoring is done and how teams are worked out and things like that, it actually requires a whole extra change to the way that games are submitted, because at the moment there isn't obviously a pairing system for pairing players, and that's so easy to do manually anyway that why wouldn't you just always do it manually? That might be something in the future that changes. We'll see.
Also, one small detail. Because we've used that Simon guideline for that. And if you want to do this, then just keep in mind that in team tournaments you have different scoring, secondary points for narrow, victory, and loss. It's loser only gets 1 instead of 2, as in single tournaments. But yes, in general, I think
is that a typo? Do you think, or do you think that's just? Because I just think that's a typo. I'll be honest with you.
Who am I to judge?
I know. The reason I say it is that none of the others were changed, and this is the thing. Like, I've talked about it before when we talked about it on stream and stuff. Team tournament scoring doesn't need to be different. Like, at all. It doesn't actually need to be functionally different at all. They just make it functionally different, and I don't know why. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's just a Simon are weird, and I don't know why they do team tournaments differently, because it doesn't need to be different at all. The only thing different you could possibly do is add a precursor tiebreaker instead of wins versus losses, which you could still have as the first tiebreaker. You would have overall team win versus overall team loss, as in, did you win or lose or draw a particular round? But that's easy enough done. Anyway, don't know why they do that.
Yeah. Well, but in general, what you said would probably save us some time and would fill in the stats, which was kind of the whole point of using stats. Because
the other thing as well, and the reason I actually recommend doing it this way, is that for a team event, you give more time to your players between rounds. And that is a positive thing, because I think for a team event, people are there to help, to enjoy each other's company, etc., etc., etc. You're like, nah, what's that? My teammates, Sodom. No, but the point being is that gives more time, a little bit more time between the rounds for people to actually be able to talk to their teammates, to talk about pairings, etc., etc. It actually moves a little bit less stress in the pairing element of the round, because there's a bit more time there to do it. And that's actually secretly there for the TOs, but it's quite beneficial. But yeah, anyway.
So there is one thing, but this is not the end of our issues with that event.
Go on.
Did you ever read how Simon recommends for you to pair the players? I mean, obviously you did.
Yes.
Personally, the main feedback after last year was this stupid. The Simon document doesn't know how it should be done, and what we end up with is like some weird put player. He gets paired with someone, and then the whole team gets like the fact that it tells you that one team will know that before the game starts that they will get to pick who goes first. That's kind of skew the balance, I think.
Yes.
It's like in non-enjoyable way, because it does help somebody. It's like, oh, I know I go first. I can deploy terrain around that. And the main feedback from last year was just to change it, And we talked about it with the rest of organizers, and we decided to do it. And I was like, okay, I will write the document with like updated pairing procedure. So I did, and then it turns out I do not know how to write a document, because for the first 2 rounds I was telling the people the wrong version of it, because I was pretty sure I wrote something else. So it did cause some confusion. That later I was told by other organizers that it's not actually what I wrote. I'm sorry for everyone that I misled. I have no idea how that happened and how come I wrote something that I didn't want to write. But well, should I describe how we did it?
You can do. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so basically, instead of rolling who reveals one of the player first, we still have like to choose one of the players. They become Lord, and then Lords play with each other. But then both teams at the same time pick one of their players to, like, let's say dodge, and the selected player then gets pitted against 2 not selected players from opposing team. And the opposing team chooses which one of those 2 players plays with one selected player of my team, which does make some more impact than what Simon proposes. Like, you have easier way of navigating what you want to do with it, at least with Headline. And I feel like this is pretty standard, at least where we come from. I think the Old World and Warhammer use the same pairing procedure. I don't know about other systems. So I'm really glad we improved it.
Yeah.
So, aside from the one slip up.
I know why Simon have proposed what they proposed, and that's actually because from a simplistic point of view, only one thing's happening at any one time. As in, like, there's one transfer of information to you guys then transfer it back to us, etc., etc. There's always decision making happening, one at a time. Whereas what you've proposed there is decision making happening at the same time. So you actually lower the amount of time that you need to do the pairings, because you can do your decision making at the same time we're doing ours for that first matchup. You generate your 2 matchups, and that generates the third. That is obviously a problem in itself, because you can hear what the matchups are, and you can kind of guess what the last matchup's going to be based on what you pick, and you can decide how that's going to look. There's a whole thing about espionage there that I'm not going to go into, which you can kind of do anyway. But yeah, so I actually don't massively hate the CMON pairing structure. I don't think it's that bad. I do like the fact it skews the terrain a little bit and the deployment aspect of the game a little bit. But I do think that it's interesting, because that in itself is a balance debate. Knowing when you get to pick what matchup and how you get to pick it, and the influence that then has does mean that you can look for certain matchups when you know you're going to get control of the deployment, for example, for that matchup. But I think on the most part, it doesn't affect enough matchups for it to be a major issue. As in, like...
Yeah. Also, like, the last year... Also, like, the last year we were all surprised with how it works, because we didn't really read it before. And what we saw in all of that is that if you lose the first the toss, you get to start 3 of the games that come up with and opposing team.
Which is the bit I don't understand. Because the other players don't get to pick 3 matchups. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, so basically what we thought of that is that we just want to lose every toss, do 1 matchup, because that's about how much as you get. Obviously, you get some dodging involved with who you choose and who is the Lord. And then it will kind of work out. And last year we went second, so it seemed to work better.
Yeah.
Just after we lost like 4 of the 5 tosses. But yeah, it's also like clearly skill involved there.
Yeah,
lose most fictions.
I'm more of the opinion that that is again a mistyped document. I genuinely I believe it's more likely to be typos because there's actually no benefit at all to winning the toss because you don't even pick the first matchup. You lose if you're team A, you don't pick the first matchup because that is the point where the opponent has the most options to pick against you. So team A loses the first matchup option, and by the time you get to picks 3 and 4, because the two lords are already known to be paired, like by the time you get to picks 3 and 4, B is basically choosing them both and gets the benefit, which is the bit I don't understand.
You cannot even play around it because you don't know who's gonna win the toss when you pick lords.
No.
Yeah. Just the fact that we are here wondering, are those typos?
Yeah, I mean, I can believe they are. Like, there's enough typos in documents written by Simon to know that this is an issue, like, or a potential issue. But again, like, it doesn't. The thing is, it doesn't matter enough at most events that run team events because people just do it their own way. They do their own thing that's cool and find ways of being pairing players. Like, there's lots of ways you can do it. This isn't some kind of like arcane art that only Simon know how to do. This has been done for years in different games. This is a standardized thing, and there's many different processes you can follow. But yeah, it's just a weird one again. Simon just, and this is something you notice with about everything that Simon do. Right, let's go back to the original Simon document. They had a Swiss system. And they had a Swiss system that said, "Oh, it's a standard victory if the opponent concedes, and it's a crushing victory if you have a bye." And it was like, well, that's just bad. Like, that's just not a good way of doing it. And that's like really right for anyone who's done like Swiss type draws or anything like that previously. It doesn't take you very long to look at that and go, "That's a bit of a stupid system. I'm about to lose by crushing, so I concede." Great. Why is this the better outcome? So, yeah. There are a lot of little things like that I feel like Simon have tried to rewrite the wheel by taking a picture of a wheel, putting it in front of them, and then trying to draw it. And it's just like, just use the original wheel. It's there. just do the thing. Yeah, I don't know. I'm complaining now. I'm not gonna complain too much. I
mean, come on. We were all there for you complaining.
Yeah, I know. It's what I'm known for, right? Mr. Complain.
I'll just point out that you still get a crashing victory for a bye.
Yes, yeah, you do. Yeah. Yeah.
They did change the conceding part.
Yes. After we sent them a message.
I think it should still be just a crashing victory, but
yeah,
I'm sure. So maybe
the results are here.
Posted on our Facebook event.
Yes, and I had to go find them. And I can't pronounce the one at the top, so I'm not even going to try. But they won. The one at the top won. What's interesting to note here is that the and this kind of goes back to what we're saying, the number of tournament points they won the event with was lower. Well, tournament points, team points, whatever you want to call it, right? So TPs is your 3 points for a loss, 3 points for a win, 2 points for a draw, 1 point for a loss. Yeah? That's your team points, which they call. Which we can just call tournament points, because that's what they called everywhere else. Just call them tournament points. It's actually a lot easier. You have tournament points, which are your standard 3, 2, 1. Secondary points are your secondary points, just like you do in secondary points and you play solos. How much you win the game by, and points destroyed is points destroyed. It's exactly the same. So none of that changes. The difference is you get what Simon calls a tournament point, which would be way easier if you just call it a team point, because you're in teams, and then the two documents become the same. You win a point if your team wins more that round than the opponent. Boom.
So basically, you can't count how many times the team won.
No.
You don't need points for that.
No.
You just need fingers.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a silly system. Especially, it's, you know what, again, I wouldn't complain too much, but what actually annoys me is you read the two documents for tournaments and team tournaments, it uses the same language and then refers to different things in each one. And the fact that it does it that way leads to stupid conversations like what's team points and what's tournament points. And the answer you give, if you read one document, will be wrong, even though they should just be the same things. That's just a personal beef I have. I won't go into.
They still don't describe what tournament points are.
No, they don't.
Like,
no.
You can get to the fact that at some point team gets it, but you don't know how much.
No. So you actually.
Or what exactly?
Like, again, it's so easy because you can just track how much each team is winning by. Like, this here does it all for you. And this is basically like what we talk about, a spreadsheet or something that you'd have. This is effectively the totals from the team that are ongoing as you go through. And you just have that one column of wins of like how many times have they won a round. Boom, done, easy. And yet there seems to be this complicated way that Simon described it, and I hate it. Anyway, the event itself, that team at the top won the event. Are you gonna pronounce it? You can speak Polish, so.
This is not Polish, actually. I think it's Silesian. It's like, yeah, we don't speak like that in whole Poland. It's original talk.
Oh wow.
This is okay. I'll translate for you what this team name means. It's Dark Wings, Dark Wars.
Right.
But
okay.
In the said language.
Yeah.
It is quite funny, to be honest.
Yeah.
This is Kosa's team.
Mm-hmm.
So to say, you can know Kosa if you've ever been to the stats main page.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's still there.
Yeah, he is just.
Yeah, this guy.
Yeah.
Maybe we can take a quick look at what they had.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take that, put it in there. Nice. Right. Okie dokie then. So Kosa was running Roost Guards, Gregor, Kassarok Honor Guard, Ramsey, Theon, Babe Men, Highest Power Bicep, Tywin, and then he's running Greg Halbs, which I know has been a popular kind of thing through different times. Tyrion Crossbow, Knights, Brigands, Tywin, Qyburn, Baelish. I mean, they're not exactly what I would call normal lists. They're a little bit deviate from what we see, but we see Gregor, Knights, Tywin. Like Gregor with Knights and Tywin is like, it's just a list you see, and that is the list, right? The Qyburn, the Baelish, they're all useful parts. The Brigands are useful. The Crossbowmen are great. Tyrion is obviously good, but like it's just the old I'm gonna charge you with Tywin going off on your unit, and I'm gonna play Price of Failure, and I'm gonna kill you. That is the game plan of this list. And I know that people say, no, it's more nuanced than that. It really fucking isn't. This has a game plan that's just, I'm gonna delete things. And I delete something, and the thing I delete is this is why the lists, and why Lannisters are not doing that well, is that these have a one direction game plan of, I will delete you. They delete you, and then that's kind of it. They have to win because they've now got an advantage. So if they don't delete you, shit's bad. Shit gets real bad real quick because they've spent everything and you're not dead. There's problem number one.
Yeah.
Problem number two is if you can't leverage that kill to push through a victory, you're really, really going to struggle. Like, if one kill is not enough and you lose something in the process, you may just still lose as the Lannister player. Which again is why Lannisters are kind of languishing in mid-table, not particularly high, not particularly low either, because they just have this one. And you see this with all Gregor lists, by the way. Like, yeah. Martin says, "No, Mickey, it's more nuanced than that." Martin, you know that's not true.
It's basically what I did in London last year. It's like I take Gregor and smash most people, and it works.
Yeah.
Unless you get as lucky as Carlo, or play free folk. That's cheating.
Or just don't.
And that's what you said. If killing one unit isn't enough, then it's a problem.
Yeah.
With fucking Fist for Crows.
Just run. I just have to tactically run away. It's fine, Sophie.
Yeah, because you get fucking objective points under you.
Well, also,
mode.
you also have to not throw away your brigands on something useless. So,
I mean, I don't think anyone would ever make such stupid mistake. So yeah. What I can tell you, because I have access to the results file, is that he won 4 games with those lists and lost only against Free Folk. Once.
Fair enough.
And that's all of it. I don't think you would usually see Roos, right? I don't think he's top dog in Lannisters now.
He's on and off. He still gets played because Roos is seen as being quite synergistic with Lannisters. And I think most people who would talk about it is like, Lannisters want to play a panic game. Roos likes panicky type games. So Roos is synergistic with Lannister. Like, I think from just a very basic analysis point, Roos in Lannister makes sense. Do I think that Roos is good in Lannister? I actually don't. I don't think the Roos style gameplay is that effective into most things you're going to run into. Let's actually just have a little look, right? Roos in Lannister.
Wow, I did not expect to see the best Roos being in Baratheons.
Yeah, Baratheons are doing well though, so it's kind of, and again, the neutral commanders get played less. So
fair enough. Is he the last Roos?
No way. No. Did I just miss him? What?
Wait, he's the last.
No way. Oh, there he is. He is not as bad as the Targ Roos or the Bolton Roos. Derp.
Oh yeah, that's really it.
But yeah, he's
an achievement.
mildly worse than the neutral Roos.
Well, maybe it's also like kind of beginner's trap. It's like maybe he's not so easy, and then he gets instinctively played by Lannisters because he has more synergy with them, you would say.
Yeah. I mean, Thomas says Roos Red Cloaks is strong. It's alright. Like, it's alright. I wouldn't say it's that good. I don't think Roos Red Cloaks is that good. I just think that Roos Red Cloaks is alright. You know, it's like fine. And it's kind of evidence, like, his win rate is sat at 56%, which isn't awful, but he's not positively rated ELO-wise. He's not doing that well. He's beating the things he should beat, not beating the things he shouldn't be beating. So, like, if you wanted a list that was maybe a little bit less luck-based into the weaker stuff, like, if you wanted, like, I'm going to play against Boltons, or I'm going to play against, like, all these things that are just bad, Roos is a good pick because it's probably less luck-based and less down to, can Gregor just smash something with Knights, Crazy Rock and Tywin? But, like, that consistency doesn't matter into the higher level stuff because it's just not that good at competing with it. It's not to say it's massively off the pace, it's just not great. But yeah, like, it's fine. Like, I mean, the thing is, when we talk about, like, a person's list, this list is, like, not a problem. This list is fine. It just depends what it's being used into.
And with team tournaments, you have some leverage of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and it's also a thing to point out. There were a lot of skew lists this year. I think that last year we were kind of chill on that. But like, for example, out of 7 Asha commanders, I think 3 of them ran triple boisterous charisma. And I just when I first saw it, I was like really surprised by why people picked that list. But after thinking it through, it felt like it might not be that bad idea, because like no free folk and no Martel is gonna want to play into that, and there were some free folk and some Martels there.
Yeah.
I mean, no free folk, but I guess we can talk about free folk list building in a moment, because that's also what I felt that I feel. But okay, go on. See the next day.
Next game. Next, we'll go down to the next team. We've got a Martel player, Marcin. Sorry. Interesting to see Marcin do quite well at the event. I'm guessing then. How did he do?
What?
How did Marcin do?
Yeah, give me a second. Wait, do you know the guy?
I bizarrely don't know him, not personally, but I have seen him plenty on Facebook. He used to post quite a lot.
Okay, yeah. So he got twins. Two wins.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Martel's. It goes to the Dervishes, Harmon, Dario Spearman. This is one of those. Dario Sunspear Royal Guard is one of those combos which I like. I look at and go, that should be an 8-point melee infantry unit that just kicks people's butt. And then it just doesn't. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like all these things we see in the game. This is like the thing that you look at this and think, that should work and that should be great. And it just isn't. Like, it ends up doing more damage to itself than it should.
Yeah, I just, every time I see Dario in melee infantry, I just gloss over it. I don't really care, I feel. It's like, okay, the hard-hitting melee unit is gonna hit a bit harder. Yeah. Cool. I think I have some like issues with it, because once my friend told me that he once played Dario into me and was winning, and then rolled badly on Dario and lost because of that. I'm like, I might have subconsciously taken that as, oh yeah, Dario is bad. And it's like, I don't know, I wouldn't spend. I feel I have hard time finding a point to spend on Dario, just so I can get my unit killed at most inconvenient time.
I think that's the thing with Dario, is you have to, like, and if we talk about Greyjoy and where we've seen him work in Greyjoy, part of the reason he worked and part of the reason he was picked is because the units he was being used in were the units you kind of wanted to die to then bring back. What they cared about is, can they just hit really fucking hard? And who cares if they die, because I'm going to bring them back. Like the whole Balon thing, right? Because it actually gives you more opportunity for the unit to die, which seems back to front, but is actually what you want when you have a respawn mechanic. You want to be able to control the point of death. It's kind of why, you know, you see good free folk players using regroup and reform to kill their own units a lot more, because actually that controlling that death timing is really useful. If you have respawn mechanics or other mechanics that can benefit from that. In Martels, it's not a good idea, because now you just die faster. You don't want to die faster. Yeah, I'm not sold. Not my cup of tea.
I don't think I can say much, because we did end up with 3 wins, so maybe this was the unit that we needed to do better.
Oberyn is always cool. Like I don't know if I would include things like the GCS and stuff like that, but like Oberyn is a good commander, I think now. Perfectly fine. Oberyn Sunspear Royal Guard, while I know it isn't what most top level players would probably run, it is actually like full on just a combo that just feels good, looks good on paper, has a lot of synergy. Why wouldn't you do it? I like the idea of Edric Dane in there as well. Not my kind of thing. I don't like Edric that much. I don't think he's that useful. But it's cool.
It often is like I've got a point left decision, but on the other hand, there are naked skirmishers. Just one on the next position on the list. So.
Run a Spearlord, run a High Garden Sentinel, a High Hermitage Sentinel, run something in the skirms, because skirms are good. Yeah.
This is quite funny because when Martels got released, they were like the worst of their starter units, I think. Like only unit with negative eel.
Yeah.
And the only thing that changed from then, okay, I guess NCUs and Harman changed. So
The game changed as well a lot. The game was... They weren't competitive in the game at the time in the same way. Because what was killing them was... I mean, Mance just would tear them to shreds. The old Mance lists would tear them to shreds. And back with, Night's Watch being as prevalent as they were... Night's Watch has some pretty good tools against them as well. Way back. But yeah. They definitely came out of the blocks whimpering. But I think someone was saying, I can't remember. I know who it was, I can't remember the name now. Was saying they're actually secretly really good, and it was like, yeah, they're probably going to be okay. And the meta's now suiting them a lot more. Skirmishing type units are benefiting in the meta right now because everyone wants to be in melee with these big heavy hitters, and so skirmishers can counter the meta, if you will, by not engaging in melee combat, and have done for 2 seasons. Whereas that's not what people did in season 1 at all. Like big melee combat was not season 1.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
I also hate the idea of GCS in the list, ever. But whatever.
Yeah, they're probably not great though. I don't know. Yep. I don't know. I quite like GCS, but now they're not that strong. I'm like, oh yeah, they're fun, but I don't play the game enough anymore to really say they're that good. Wolfic. Wolfic's a name that I have not seen in some time, but Wolfic's a good player, right? Wolfic is sat... I don't know if he's still sat near the top. He was recently. He's still up there? Maybe not. I'm not gonna search through the list and find him. Yeah, 143. Yes, he's dropped. I think he's dropped a bit from where he used to be. Oh no, he's grown. But it's just a name I remember then. But yeah, so Wolfic with Night's Watch. And this is again, I'm not a big fan of these watch captains, which we've seen included in various different list building Night's Watch. Yeah?
Go on.
What?
Go on.
Go
next
on
list.
As in next list.
Show us the next list.
Fair enough.
I think you guys have very different opinion on that. It seems.
Yeah.
What I wanted to say is that I hate that list. I just looking at it, I hate it.
Yeah. The problem, this is a list while I don't like the watch captain inclusion, this is a list I can kind of get behind as being actually probably not a terrible list, right?
You mean the stone thrower one or the double vest one?
The stone thrower, because yeah. I think Shadow Tower Spearmen are fantastic. I genuinely think they're superb units. They are, and I know this sounds really crazy to say, I think they're probably up there with being one of the highest premium price point 7-point units for melee infantry. Melee infantry 7-point unit. Shadow Tower Spearmen are pretty much the beasts. And everyone looks at them and says, oh, but they're worse than Sunspear Royal Guard, etc., etc., etc. And it's yeah, but they're not. They have everything you want them to have in a unit that's supposed to be defensive. And they put more threat. And the thing is, they have a good example of Sunspear Royal Guard. They have actually 0 threat projection on small units. Because a small unit just charges it and goes, well, now I'm hurting you. And you might not get through the shield wall or whatever, but it doesn't matter. And you're going to get minced when it attacks you back, but it doesn't matter because you did what you needed to do. Shadow Tower Spearmen, a small unit charges this, and it goes, lol, set for charge, I've killed you, I've realigned, now you're not going to do any damage. And you go, oh, this sucks.
You are not charging it with watch captain in it, come on.
No, of course you're not. But that's, I mean, that's kind of the point, right? Yeah, you just shoot it. This is the thing. Like, and again, this is actually where I'll reiterate's not the right term, but where a lot of what I've seen here moves towards what I think again a lot of people are doing in the meta, which is you see Lannisters with Knights of Castle Rock. Lance Cav are Lance Cav. They see play. Ranged units are only existing as one-offs in lists at best. And I think that's really interesting as a player who believes that ranged combat is still one of the best things you can do in the game outside of movement. And again, we see cavalry here in the Vanguard, but we see a no cavalry list here, and I just think that's mental. I think Vanguard are superb with Donald Noy as the support piece, which appears in both lists as well. Why wouldn't it, though? Like, Donald Noy supporting Vanguards genuinely makes them the best 7-point cavalry in the game. But I actually think it makes them the best 8-point cavalry unit in the game. And I know people say that I'm wrong, but like, I don't think I am. I genuinely think that Vanguard with Donald Noy in support are superb. Tully Cavaliers with 4 points of extra help, yes, they probably outperform Vanguard on a 1-to-1 basis, but you're paying more points for that, so fine. Yeah, I don't know. Just shoot this list. This is what I would do. Is I would just shoot this list.
Yes, and the conscripts, like that is just asks to be shot by lightbringers.
Yeah.
But well,
it doesn't matter if you don't have to worry about the poor matchups. You don't have to worry about that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh my god.
I just see Belwas and I can't.
I can't. Maybe this worked better for him. Maybe this worked better for him than I give credit for. But...
Oh, okay. How many games do you think the guy won?
3.
5.
He won 5.
Yes.
And we don't know if he played Belwas though, do we? So.
No, unfortunately not. Yeah, but
I mean, this is a Drogo.
Wait, I think some people did note down the game, so maybe I'll check in a moment. Yeah, the Drogo probably does most of the work.
Yeah, this is I mean, I'm not going to sound over the top when I say this. This is a tournament standard staple Drogo list basically at this point. This is what Drogo players have been running and have been playing and I've been doing really well with. Camille's actually in chat there.
Can you please let us know?
Please let us know. Did you run the Belwas list? And if you did, how many times? And if you won with the Belwas list 5 times, I don't know what to tell you. You either got.
I mean, at this point, I think we shouldn't be the ones sitting there and talking.
Well, I mean,
let's switch over
all
to
I'll
Cavi.
say is if he ran Belwas 5 times, then there's something about this list and the matchups he was getting that I just don't understand. Because this is Belwas is truly awful.
Okay.
No. That might mean that he did not play Belwas. I mean,
it's still pretty Chad move to pick Belwas and then don't play him for 5 games and we know everything anyway.
5 times Carl.
I think this is mental win for him. Your opponent sees Belwas and it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, so he played Drogo 5 times and he won with Drogo 5 times, which credit where credit's due. Well done, Camille. But that's at least more understandable. If the Belwas had been picked once, maybe picking up a 1-game win, I'd understood that. Maybe it's even 2 times potentially against the right kind of opponents. But yeah, I understand why someone might do this. Pathetic attempt. You know, if you're running into stuff that just wants to get engaged and do damage, these kinds of cards can be a bit of a nightmare. I just
It seems to fit like with the fact that they had veterans in team,
Yes.
and so it's like maybe it's local play style that's just poured over to everybody. And then you have also like Gregor in Lannisters, and
Yeah.
then you have Dario in Martels. It's like it seems that the guys just wanted blood and went for it.
Yeah. And that's fine. Like again, you get a bunch of players that are just tearing people's heads off with a lot of combat, a lot of killing, while also just then controlling the board and positioning themselves to score points. You'll win events. You know, that's all you need to do is just make sure you come down on the good side of the combats. And if they're investing points into doing that, which is they kind of are, you'll win events. But yes, that was Darkwing's Dark Words who won the event.
Yeah, and it's like also they've won with the Klimatiarze at the final round, and Klimatiarze is like Podwell's team, and those are the guys that won last year. So yeah, for sure, we need to give credit where it's due.
100%. Who was on Podwell's team? Let's have a look. Because I don't know who was actually on Podwell's team. It was Podwis, Gratka, Boba, and Sanex as well. Okay, cool.
Yeah. All the guys are from my community, so maybe there I can say a bit more. This is the same squad they played as last year, so they just stuck to it. And well, considering the fact that the 3 of the guys didn't play until like 2 days before the event, yeah, it does kind of show how much they can achieve. Gratka won, I think, all of his games. Yeah, we laughed for weeks before this tournament that he's gonna be the one carrying this team. Because like he was the only one engaged into the game in general.
Do you know what's really funny? Shouldn't laugh. These are two lists I actually play. Like, these are straight up 2 lists I play.
If anyone is wondering where Michael Arnold gets his list from, it's from Poland. Clearly.
This is going to sound really crazy. I don't look at other people's lists like at all. I'm just like, I build something and I'm like, that looks cool. But yeah, 9 activation, great, John. I'm not actually a huge fan of this. I think this has real big weaknesses. But it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter because the other list you have is the Rob kind of Tully Cavalier combo list, which is just...
It's insanely good.
I mean, I don't like the Sansa in this list myself. That's just me. I prefer the Varys, but I understand why people run Sansa. You know, I really do. And people complain about Sansa all the time.
I'll just point out that we had like 4 teams from Wrocław, and we had 3 star players, and basically all of them played same list variation. So it's like we picked up the same, lists in the community. There are some variations to that, but like we stick mostly to that. Yeah. I hate that trope. It's just so good.
This is just, yeah.
I was honestly surprised to see that I don't think there were that many double Tully Rob players. It's like, why wouldn't you play that if you play Starks?
A lot of people prefer Great John double Tully Cavs, and there are various different variations of the double Tully Cav style. But then people try and like drop it down to 1 Tully Cav, and then some crazy guy. I just looked at this because it said Rob. Some crazy guy wants to run Great John Lysine Swords. What a Chad.
I think we actually also did that. It's like... Because I think mostly Great John 9 comes into play against Free Folk, which is like, in some scenarios. And Great John 9 Act has some play into Free Folk, especially if people pick the board. Because it's Team Tournament, I don't have to play against 9 Act lists.
Correct. That's why you don't pick the ball. Because that's how you lose a tournament game really easily, by someone counterpicking you with a 9-act list, and then you going, I have 9 acts, and they go, I got 9 acts and 2 pass tokens. Fuck you. Yeah, that's how you lose a game. Anyway, I won't go into that. That would just make me angry and sad and mad. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see. I mean, the interesting for me was when you saw the stat breakdown. You're going to see more swings towards more even pie charting, just simply because people are going to be picking 4 and they're spreading it because it's got to be split between different factions. So you're going to see a much like broader pick, wider split. Yeah, broader split. And we see 17% Stark. Now, there were 19 Great Johns. 19 Great Johns of the 17 players. And quick math, which I'm not going to do today for you, 17% of 120 is 20 players playing Stark.
Maybe.
That's 2/3 of the teams.
Yeah.
Picking Stark. I don't think Starks are broken or anything, but that is a lot of people. Interestingly, Martells were the next biggest, then Baratheon, then Greyjoy.
I was honestly surprised to see that many Nightwatch and Free Flock both, but I guess it's reasonable with that event. Those were like the 2 biggest wildcard factions when we talked about pairings, because like we had no idea how many people are going to play Free Flock, because we in general don't have Free Flock players there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's understandable to assume that Nightwatch players would be sad after the last patch. So
yeah, it's interesting to see though. 20 players playing Stark, 19 of them picking up Greyjohn. It's a lot.
How many Robs were there? Not that many.
Only 9.
Okay,
Only 9.
Yeah.
I mean, comparatively, Steer, right? I mean, we can talk about kind of like the impact, but there were, I think maybe it depends on. I think 9% is 11 Free Folk players, accounting for rounding. So 11 Free Folk players, 10 of them ran Steer.
12 Free Folk players to be precise. No, 11. You're right, because one didn't play.
Yep. See, so 11 Free Folk players and 10 of them running Steer. Like that. I'm not going to say the 13 Oberons is like in 15% of players. It's a lot of people running Oberyn, but there are some factions like the Targ. We see 11 Drogos, probably out of like what 13, I think 11%, 13. 13 Martell, 13 Targ players, 11 Drogos, 11 Free Folk, 10 Steer. Like there are, in my opinion, probably standout commanders that nearly every player in a faction just picks now. And there's one-off, like there's a one-off commander you pick, and then your second list can be a bit dependent, but everyone's picking that same first list commander. That's not like, this isn't like saying the balance is good or bad, but it just shows that the internal balance is just probably a little bit off for some of the factions. Ironically, the factions that are more powerful, I say, have probably got the wider split in power level commanders, with the likes of Steer and probably Varamir ultimately still being very strong. And something like Rattleshirt being a piece of crap in the grand scheme of things, right? And it's not like Rattleshirt's like awful, but it's the comparative difference between them. We see that a lot. You see that a lot more. The difference is still not huge. It's not like they're massive. They're way better than they've been previously. But I think we see that a lot more with a lot of different factions. Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting that you pointed that out. I didn't really notice it before. But it does seem like you have to play that one good commander of your faction.
I mean, Baratheon are currently quite highly rated, right? Yeah, 20 points above Stark. One True King is leading the race, but even Paramount the Stormlands, who I have always loved.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Renly 2 He's a commander I've always really enjoyed playing, even if he's not very good. Even when he was crap, I enjoyed playing Renly too, and he's doing really well now. Courtney's doing fine, and we see Baylor's up there, Varamir's still up there, Steer's up there as well. Don't have to go much further, I don't think, for Steer. There you go.
It does look like the start of the patch where Nightwatch got insanely strong. It's like mostly Baratheons there.
Yeah, but that's because Baratheons are highly rated at the moment. I think they'll come down.
Yeah, I have no idea how they got so far up.
The last 50 games, they've gone up 10. So, like, even if you just discount, I'm not saying the last 50 games are more important than the others, but if you just take into account that the last 50 games have seen a 10 rise, they're only 20 above Starks. So, Harm's Vanguard needs some armor trophies. Don't know what you're talking about. I mean, yes.
They are clearly Karma unit. You cannot play them with Rattle Shield.
So, that whole thing about, let's not go there. That's a rules discussion that doesn't have an answer. And the answer I think is right, which is no, they don't count as Harmer, is the unsavory answer. And it sucks. But anyway, it doesn't actually make much difference. Harmer's cards barely do anything different for cavalry. They're not actually that important at all. So, I mean, we'll talk briefly about Harmer's Vanguard. I was having a long conversation with someone on YouTube, comments section.
Oh God.
I know, right?
When you hit it, you know it's not gonna end well.
No. I think it was someone on Yekatz's video talking about they just feel bad, they don't look good, they have some issues, etc., etc. And like, first thing, obviously, don't take the blurb that's written about a unit in this game to be anywhere close to being what's really true about them, because it just isn't the case. For those of you who don't remember, the first time we saw the Cold Hands card, the text on the reverse side of the Cold Hands card was just lorem ipsum generated text. It wasn't a real like flavor text at all. It was your standard coding filler text they use. So don't take flavor text as being a hugely relevant element of a unit's abilities. That being said, Harmer's Vanguard are like a perfect example of a unit that is so absolutely uninteresting to see in terms of stat line. Uninteresting to see in terms of ability, apart from the fact that it causes all kinds of rule discussion because targeting. They're just unbelievably uninteresting.
Which is extremely sad, considering that it's first free for cavalry.
And the first cavalry unit coming in at 5. But, and I say this, I really do say this, just because something isn't interesting doesn't mean it's bad. Like, I genuinely think that there are reasons you would run Harmer Vanguard in Free Folk right now. And yet I don't think they're a particularly good unit. I'm not like, oh yeah, I need myself some Harmer's Vanguard, they're going to be great fun. I'm like, yeah, I'll probably put them in. Maybe he's a one-off in this list.
It's hard to be excited when they are worse than the Riders.
Yeah. And this is... But let's be honest. Let's be very honest. Raiders are still very good. We talk about these things. It's like it's hard to get excited about something that's worse than something else. But like, it's hard to get excited about something that's worse than Tully Cavaliers. I'm not wrong.
Brendan Tully being the highest Tullys.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Okay, you tricked me.
It's not that they're like crap. It's just that, Raiders and Trappers are still doing very well comparatively. It's actually interesting to see them drop off. I don't have the graphs for these, but they've actually dropped off quite significantly. They were a lot higher. Yeah.
Joker, I very much disagree because whole of the free folk deck relies on infantry being there. I mean, not whole, half of it.
I do think that they could be strong enough. Like you always have the problem with any faction, I'll add, where if it doesn't synergize with the faction very well, it artificially has a lower level use case than it probably actually is. So what happens is it might see a buff or it might be better. And then what happens is it becomes pretty fucking stupid because it's now above the playable level of all of the other units at the same cost, meaning it's just far more point efficient than it should be. So point for point, it's just the most sensible pick. For example, Golden Company Swordsman, which I was running in Season 2, sorry. I was running Golden Company Swordsman in Season 2 in neutrals because I thought they had a place and I thought they were viable and I liked them. And then they came along and went, adaptive style. And it was like, you didn't need to do this. They were fine in neutrals before. They maybe needed a tweak to make them better to make them more viable in set as 7 point in other factions. You didn't need to do this. And we saw what happened with Season 3 and adaptive style Golden Company Swordsman. Herp-a-derp-a-derp, chop people's heads off.
Yeah, guys, the top-rated player in the world did okay with them, so they don't need changing, clearly.
No, the thing is, maybe, I don't know. I just think, I just think that, I think there's this over need. Like, when something has a place, sometimes it's okay for it to have that place. When something doesn't have a place, that's the problem. Like one of the biggest issues we see yet again, right? And this is something that I haven't discussed in any real detail. But this unit right here, which has received a movement point buff, it has got better attack die on the, I believe, 2nd and 3rd ranks now. Went up from when it used to be 654. It's now 764 or 754. Can never remember the old one. It's now 765. This is a unit that's received kind of buff after buff after buff. Small incremental changes. This is a unit that still sees basically zero competitive play. Like, I know the last time I saw a unit of Bloody Mama Skirmishers on a table or in a tournament. And that was when I played against Dan in our local club, who was playing neutrals because he wanted to get the neutral badge. And he painted them up lovely and he put them on the table and kicked his fucking ass with the old Greyjoys, not modern Greyjoys. Old Greyjoys, with like an old Victorian list and things like that from Season 1, Season 2 era. And he was like, yeah, these Bloody Mama Skirmishers just get shot by archers and they suck. And I'm like, yeah, they do. They fucking suck. And they've received buffs since then. And if someone put them on a table opposite me and they lose the game and they go, God, these Bloody Mamas suck, I go, yeah, they fucking suck.
Hey, come on. Giving dervishes +1 morale did work after the second time.
Yeah,
so.
but this goes back to another point. Like, dervishes were already, again, fringe playable. They weren't being played because the things they were good against were... Well, specifically, what they weren't good against is they weren't good against Night's Watch. Dervishes sucked into Night's Watch because you don't want... like. Night's Watch units wanted things to be unengaged all the time. So you were paying for Swift Retreat or Swift Strike. And they didn't care because they're like, cool. I just get to charge you from horses more. Yeah. They needed the love, but they also got a slight shift in the way the meta works. And so the combination of both things has helped them. But that's not to say dervishes are like rock solid, amazing units. They're still not good. This is why we love stats, right? Stormcrow Dervish is a 33rd rated unit, which is like not bad for a neutral unit. It's not the GCS that we've seen previously, and I think it's only outrated by Stormcrow Mercs. Yeah. Disclude attachments, because attachments are so... Yeah, Glory Seekers, Tully Cavaliers. Oh, no surprise. Varus, no surprise. Actually, Varus. I'm going to bring up Varus. Because here's something that most of you won't know about Varus. We'll look at that in a second. Chariots played relatively often back in Season 2, Season 3. I don't think having good cav in an army always brings 9 acts. Good idea, maybe? May just be opinion. I don't know the idea of riding free folk. It's true.
To be honest, you did play Chariots because they were 4 points and you get 10 acts with them. Yes, I remembered the Reddit man's list. 2 Chariots and 10 acts.
Yeah, just kick the shit out of people.
Without pass tokens. The fuck?
Elias said, I'm curious at least why Night's Watch want to be unengaged. They don't as much now. They used to want it more. Nowadays they kind of do because your Shadow Spearmen benefit more from having to be charged. So someone having a retreat mechanic to run away from them doesn't make any sense because all that means is the next time they charge, they get set for charged again. That's not a good thing. But on the whole, Night's Watch wanted to be unengaged back in the day because Night's Watch had superior movement values. And if you've got bigger movement values and bigger movement manipulation, being unengaged is what makes you able to use your movement abilities. And it allows you to then pick and engage where you want to, rather than just being engaged. So, what is the point in having a movement 9 unit, right? Really good example. What is the point in having a movement 8 or 9 unit if all you do is move 5 inches forward and charge your target 1 inch away? If that's all you're doing with your movement stat, Baratheons could have made that charge on a 2+. Without it being cavalry. That's not you using cavalry, that's you using cavalry as a glorified infantry unit. That is what some people are using now, the Tully Cavalier, the Knights of Cassie Rock style. They're not using them as cavalry, they're using them as glorified GCS, basically. They just fulfilled that same role that we saw GCS do, which is a big fucking uppercut to the face. The difference is because they are cavalry, and when you see the really good players of these lists and players in the game, they're using them as cavalry and manipulating the board positioning and spacing. So then you're getting charged by Tully Cavaliers, but you're getting charged in the flank by a unit that's got a 7 activation list, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? He has the same number of activations at me, and he's charging Cavaliers into the flank of my units. And that's because they're using the movement to pull you apart and control the spacing more. And that's the power of having a movement value that's good or having a cav move. Night's Watch had those movement values. They had those extra iterative movement elements. So they wanted to be unengaged for that. Then they also had, back in the day with the John lists, is you could take horses and charge for the watch. Back in the olden days, it was swords and horses. So being unengaged actually meant you could charge from the board. Whereas if someone took swords because they're engaged with you and attacked, you were still engaged, you couldn't take horses and make an attack action. Whereas if they attacked you by charging into you and swift striking off, they could then take horses or swords to open the round and charge you with it. So that was a big technique in the olden days when you did run dervishes into certain lists, is you would deliberately not use swift strike to retreat away because you didn't want to leave the unit you were facing unengaged. But yeah, that's Yeah, the whole thing there. Varys. Sophie, have you looked at Varys?
I have one on my desk, so I can do it now.
We know Varys got nerfed, and I mean, you've only got to look at the win rate in neutrals. Now, Season 3 neutrals win rate was somewhat pegged up by GCS anyway, and it's dropped by 10%. Like, Varys is not doing well in neutrals. In Lannister, there's a 2% win rate drop. Now, the interesting thing here is I will have to go back to our top and load all these up as we go through. Varys has had a 2% win rate drop in Season 4 with Lannisters. Lannisters have dropped 2%. Varys is still better than the Lannister win rate. So, ergo, Varys is good in Lannister. Can you tell where I'm going with this?
I have no idea.
Yeah, you do. You know full on what's happening here. Stark.
Yeah.
Stark had a win rate in season. Well, Varys in Stark had a win rate of 49.77%. Stark in season 3 had a win rate of 47.74%. He was good in Stark. He's gone up to 50.37. However, Starks are at 51.47. So Varys is not carrying Stark, which we know it's Tully Cavaliers. Like, that's not news. He is arguably worse in Stark. Okay? So Varys in Stark, not great. Varys had a 61% in Night's Watch and a 52% now. Let's have a look at Night's Watch. Night's Watch had a 54% and now have a 46%. So guess what? Varys is pretty good in Night's Watch. Who's up next? Baratheon. So, Baratheon had 48% and have gone up to 52%. Varys in Baratheon had a 53% and has gone up to 54.8%. So he's comparatively not as good as he used to be, but he's still a positive impact in Baratheon. Bearing in mind this is nerfed Varys. Can I just point out Varys got nerfed? Like, there's an overriding story here. Varys got nerfed. And he's no longer like shooting above the stars, amazing everywhere. But Varys is still very playable. Very, very, very playable. There is a reason he's the highest rated NCU in the game right now. In Targ, 53%, they've dropped to 51.5. Let's have a look at Targ overall. I would, but it takes ages to load the bottom of the list. Targ had a 49 and have gone up to 49.5. Brilliant. So he's not as effective as he used to be in Targ, which we know he got nerfed. He literally got nerfed. His win rate has dropped by 2% in Targ. Targ's win rate barely changed at all. He's still good. Greyjoy, 57 down to 41.8. His win rate in Greyjoy fell through the floor. And I do think this one's very interesting because Greyjoy's win rate did actually go down. But, yeah, like Varys and Greyjoy, don't do it. It's not a good mix. There are other better NCUs for you in Greyjoy.
That's interesting.
It
You
is.
think that a faction with no cavalry would like to have free shift from time to time?
Yes. And do you know why I think it is? Genuinely.
Why?
I think it's because Windermere is still okay in Greyjoy. You don't need the healing. The hits don't matter that much from swords. You want to be taking these zones as much as you can in Greyjoy's kind of anyway. The 3-inch shift is useful, but like there are better options. And then, as you know well, Sophie, like you've got Balon, who's an auto-include. Wendemir's an option. Makoro's an option. Roderick Harlaw's an option. So you have a lot of kind of like competitive 4-point NCUs anyway. Varus just doesn't make the cut. No good reason for it. He just doesn't make the cut, and he doesn't make the lists work properly.
But why the drop-off though? Because it's like a significant one.
It might just be because where he's being played. Take that into account. You know, there is going to be an element of where is Varus being played. It is only 100 games. Comparatively very low compared to the 2s and 300s that we see in other factions.
Fair enough. I will just say, as a free-for play, I hate Varus. And Vendamer also. I hate when my opponent moves.
Yeah,
it's unfair.
No, you don't hate it when your opponent moves. You hate it when your opponent moves with not an action. That's the thing you hate.
To be honest,
if it's an action they do, like when they activate and move, I'm like, cool. That's what I like.
And it's just so easy to screw someone over on movement. And if they have a free and shift available on whole board, then it's not so easy.
No.
So it's like, yeah, it being an action helps, but like, it's so wonderful to block horses for your opponent. Then you know, okay, half your army doesn't do anything this round because you can't fucking turn around.
Yep. Oh, I know. It's great, isn't it? Martel's 54 to 55. His win rate went up in Martel, but it's only a small increase, very, very small. And Martel's win rate went up a tiny amount as well. Ergo,
Varus is good.
Varus got nerfed, and he's still good in a lot of factions in the game. And he's not like the best. I'm not going to sit here and say he's the best NCU for every faction. I don't believe that. I'd be telling you wrong information if I believed that Varus was the best every faction for every list, which he basically almost was in Season 3. We never picked him first, but he was like, basically he's always your third pick, which kind of means he's always your first pick. Kind of. Because you already know you're going to pick him as your third NCU. Because you know that he's better than any of the other potential NCUs you're likely to pick by the time you get to that point in list building. But yeah.
Balon down in win rate, in pick rate, only 88%.
Mm-hmm.
Balon is fine.
Yeah, I think he is, personally. I mean, I'll probably get a lot of ire for that, but I don't think Balon's an issue.
Him being a faction identity is an issue.
Yes.
Same with Val.
Yes, Val and Balon are issues, because they're being, as you say, them being faction identities is an issue. But yeah. Anyway, I thought we'd just go down the list building kind of like rabbit hole and things. I've not been playing much, to be honest. When was the last time I played? Like 2 weeks ago, I think, which is a long time. 3 weeks ago. I'm not that connected, right? I'm not playing events. I'm not really thinking about events that much. I've got an event I might be attending in May. It's probably going to be my first one back. So I'm starting to kind of gear back up into it. But I still look at some of this stuff. And I don't do the full comparisons in my spare time all the time. But I look at this stuff and go, ooh, that's not what I thought it would be. Or, ooh, that's interesting. And stuff like Varus not being as bad as people think and still being good is really interesting after what is just... It's not a change. It's just categorically a nerf. He has less tokens. He's still very viable. I think that's really interesting. Really
Absolutely.
interesting. But yeah, there you go. Sorry, tangent again.
Yes. Do you have anything to say?
Not really. How was
Next question.
overall? How was the Polish team tournament? Was it good?
Yes, I enjoyed it, but for the last few big events, I feel like I'm just not participating in that. I was there. I did play, but I barely, like, all the memory starts to slowly blend.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the similar case for our nationals last year. It's like maybe me being a referee also like changes how I see things. I notably didn't do that much. It was mostly people just coming to ask me stuff. because like the other guys were fine with managing all the other stuff, but I did feel like I was all over the place, so it wasn't that memorable of an event for me. But in general, I think I can see people being happy with that event. There is like a lot of movement in the community going on. Like we've got some people coming back to the game after it. Chester told me that after the tournament, people in his community actually started picking up second factions because they are so hyped up for the game.
Mm-hmm.
So it does feel like it's what people wanted. And yeah, but I didn't really get any major complaints.
That's very good. That is good. I mean, it's interesting though, because it seems to be the only real place where it's sustainable. Because we did in the Northeast, there was a team tournament in the Northeast last year in the UK. And people loved it. People who came along really enjoyed it. But it didn't lead to, like, significant growth. Do you know what I mean? It's not seen anything like that you've talked about there. And if anything, it's probably a mark of, in my opinion, a slowing down scene in the UK, and that the momentum isn't there anymore, for various reasons, but it just isn't. And
yeah, it doesn't seem like the game needs that much. Like Mark from War Factory does a great job of keeping the game alive, but it's like if only other places could have someone engaging into it like him, or like if Asmodee cared more, then maybe that would be the case all over the place, not just in Poland.
And this is not just me trying to be doom and gloom about it. It's purely from my experience. It's just slowed down a lot, which is fine. But it's not being pushed and grown in the same way, because I think the people who, certainly in the UK, it's definitely true, the people who are trying to push and grow it aren't trying to push and grow it anymore. And no one else has stepped in to kind of like replace that. We know that obviously Chris is doing some good stuff in Germany, and the Hits and Crits guys over there. But yeah, it's I think it's just difficult, ultimately.
Yeah, having a distributor does help.
Yeah. It's cool. It's real cool. It's great that obviously the event went ahead, and congratulations to the winners.
Yeah. Maybe some other issues that we, or things related that I forgot to mention earlier. Because one big thing, this is actually the first big tournament, like organized by War Factory, where we used a chosen terrains. Yes. Because every other tournament used random ones. And God, I hated it. Because if nationals use it, then most events are gonna use it. And it's just like, we used to play a lot of chosen this month, random another month, and it's like, I don't know. The random terrains did seem to do so much, like good for the game. Not so much good for the game. It's just like you roll and you have no decision around it. And I'm actually really glad that we came to that point. I mean, it was kind of me that pushed it through, but it didn't seem like people did complain about chosen terrain.
Of course,
like the staple argument was that we are playing Fire and Blood. Like it was a possible scenario, so we just put a stone thrower in the corner and put Palisade in front of it, and the war dance, I guess.
Yeah, the problem is that that's like that's not actually that hard to beat. What's annoying about that is the game mode is shit. Not that, like, there's this game mode where if you roll it and you have chosen terrain, you can get a palisade and put it in the corner and ruin someone's day. And you go, cool, guess what I rolled on a random terrain chart? I rolled a fucking palisade. Guess what I get to do? I get to place it in the fucking corner. Guess what? The same thing has happened, but you got unlucky because I rolled a dice. That's why it happened. Rather than someone going, cool, I can expect this going to happen. That's why. That's my thing when people come and say to me, oh, there's negatives that can happen. And I'm like, yes. So what you want to leave is you want to leave the negative up to chance. Just deal with it. You're going to have to deal with it a percentage of the time anyway. So just fucking learn to deal with it. Sorry, that's just me being angry at people.
Yeah, typical Mickey. Yeah, so I hope we can stick to that because like most people that play Chosen Terrain for some time do start to like them more. It's like you play it a few times and no, the random is better. So yeah, this nice news for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For the game modes, we decided to stick to the original 9 ones, like from previous patch, because let's be honest, no one wants to play Brothers and Baker, whatever it's called. Yeah, and all people were mostly unhappy about the fact that we play Fire and Blood, which is I feel reasonable. I was thinking for a moment that we should remove it because it's still a bad game mode.
I wonder. In that, like, we spoke about banners and butchery and bollocks and bullshit and whatever you want to call it. The point is that, and Carlo pointed this out the other day actually, in the online team event that's currently running. Banners and Butchery was rolled as the round 2 game mode, and basically everybody was like, I hate it. Right? And also, it occurred to Gamma that like no one had read the tournament pack and no one really understood what they were signing up for, which is the other thing. But Carlo made a very interesting point, which was not that Banners and Butchery was bad or good or a problem or not. He simply said, right? He's surprised that the protest against it was so strong. And that is the thing that got me as well a little bit when he said it. And he was like, he's right. It's not that the game mode's been rolled, the game mode's good or bad or whatever. That's not at all what was the problem. The problem was almost that like it was just almost like a unanimous instant reaction of like, this is the worst thing. And I'm like, I don't like the game mode. I think the game mode's pretty bad. But I'd be like, sure, fine, fuck it, let's play it. There's a tournament in Darlington. The next tournament I'm likely to attend, I don't even know if I'm going yet. But the tournament I'm likely to attend is not far from my house at all. And the guys have got random terrain and they've put in Banners and Butchery into the event. And I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. This is like my least favourite things in the world. But I'm like, cool, it might happen. Fine. Deal with it. I'll go and play. That's cool. So yeah, like, I don't know. I'm a bit kind of like blown away almost. I'm almost blown away by the fact that people really hate it. In the online community, at least.
To be honest, when you sign up for an online tournament and you are like, okay, I'm gonna play a game per week, and then you are told you have to play Banners and Butchery because you didn't read the tournament pack, it's like, why would I spend my time in front of a computer playing this game mode when I can do anything else? I also, like, one of the people complaining the most, I feel, and I was this close from quitting the tournament if they don't swap the game mode, because I just don't feel like wasting 2 hours of my time on moving around units and scoring 0 points total.
But that's the interesting thing. That's the interesting thing, is that like it doesn't have to be that way. You know.
It maybe also comes from the fact that like nobody expected it.
Yeah.
So I felt like it's kind of agreed on that we don't play this game mode, and then someone tells me to play it. I'm like, oh, I don't want to.
Someone says it's not right. Thomas says it's not fun to play. I think it's a bad game mode because the game mode can have kind of draws almost, or like scored draws or whatever. But like, I thought your Europeans liked sports with 0-0 ties. Yeah, so this is actually the thing as well. Like, you know this going in, right? This isn't a surprise to you. And when I mean you know this going in, you know that the game mode has this scoring. You know that it plays this way. This is actually where I always say when people say Feast for Crows is a bad game mode. Because when you play it properly, you end up with both one side of the board each, and you score points one at a time, and like the game just kind of peters out into a non-engagement fight. And most of the time, when someone says that, I'm like, cool. I want to play a game of Fire and Feast for Crows against you, and then you'll know that that isn't how you should play the game mode, and you'll lose, and you'll lose pretty hard because you'll get beaten. That's the thing. That's actually the thing that gets me, is that like Banners and Butchery's fun to play if you enjoy lots of interactivity, because actually the way to play it correctly is to be highly interactive with your opponent, pressure them, push them off their side of the board, win the game. And yet most people who play it, I bet you, stand there on the objectives and stand still for 20 turns, six rounds. Because that's the way to win. And I don't know, I just think there's a whole maneuverability aspect to holding. You've got a point there that you've got to hold. If I kill it, I basically win the game. You've got to hold it for 6 rounds. And if I have a high maneuverability army, if I have ways of manipulating where your units are, etc., you can't protect both of them with all of your forces. And there's a whole gambit thing of like, can you protect your own while projecting threat onto them? 24-inch deployment, yeah, maybe that is a bit stupid, but you don't have to use it. Like, I don't know.
That's not fair, because just the fact that you don't have to use doesn't mean that your opponent doesn't want to. So like,
no,
if
you're right.
I want to keep the 12 inches, then I'm deploying,
Yeah, they could deploy within an inch of you, right? Or add an inch of you. They could choose to do that. The point is that in itself, surely that's more fun, right? Because you're going to get more engagements, more fighting, more things that people like and find fun in the game? Or is that not actually what people find fun?
That's really philosophical question. I think people might like getting a reward for killing.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you know what's funny? Do you know what's really funny about that, Sophie?
Yes.
That's what people like. People like a tangible, feelable reward for getting a kill. Which is why Insignificant had to be removed from the game. I don't think, we saw Insignificant get removed in Season 3. And you saw how little of a shit I gave as a Free Folk player. I'm like, everyone's like, oh my god, Free Folk are unplayable in Season 3. And I'm like, no, they're not. They are completely playable. The thing is that people want rewards for getting kills. Because they don't see the reward for getting the kill as getting the kill. Getting the kill is the reward. Right? The point you get is just a nice bonus on top. It's like people forget, if you go to the store every week and buy an ice cream with chocolate sprinkles, and then one week they run out of sprinkles, you're upset because your ice cream's shit. Rather than me looking at you going, you got a fucking ice cream, bro. Everything's great. You just didn't happen to get your sprinkles. You've been a little bit let down, but you still got an ice cream. That's better than nothing. And some people will be like, no sprinkles. I can't eat an ice cream without sprinkles. Why the fuck not? I think that's my take on it a little bit of like, there is a reward there. That reward isn't necessarily winning you the game on its own. That's just me.
We know you're playing different game than the rest of us, so...
I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
I can see Thomas is right in the sense, like, the 24 inches does mean I just run over your lists are better, which is true.
I mean, those are just like small issues with that add up. It's like 24 deployment, no victory through combat. I think that destroying objectives with melee attack isn't really that great of design after I've played it. I think I would much rather if they were just destroyed automatically at the end of the round, like you normally score. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's like you do this, and then there's like huge difference in the enjoyment from this game mode.
Maybe I actually. I don't know. I just think that there are things. It's interesting. Warden says outflanking is so much stronger. Like outflanking is very strong on Banners and Butchery, but it depends what you're outflanking with. Because actually, if you're outflanking with a 7-point unit, say like a Vanguard, right, classic old Vanguard combo, you're not gonna push off a unit on a point, not easily, not on your own, 1-on-1. And then you go, oh, but they don't get a 1-on-1, they get a 2-on-1. In which case I go, cool. In which case, what are you doing with your 24-inch deployment? Or are you actually just being outmaneuvered and your opponent's generated a 2-on-1 on the side of the board on an objective where you can't bring those resources to bear because of bad deployment and bad play, meaning that you are now going to lose the game because they're going to kill you, kill the objective, win the game with 3 VPs. So if you see that happening, why aren't you on round 1 going, shit, that's going to happen? So what I need to do is apply incredibly large amounts of pressure on my right flank to push my opponent's unit in a 2 versus 1 off that objective, beat them there, score that victory point, and now we're even. And I can even the game up by being more aggressive. Like, this is actually the irony of all of this, is that if you want to even the game up more, which a lot of people go, oh, just no engagement, no engagement, no engagement, be more aggressive. And that sounds crazy, but like, if you're going to lose anyway, being defensive is not the way to then keep losing. And this is why a lot of like mid to high tier players get it so wrong, in that they are unable to be aggressive when they are in a position that isn't favouring them. So yeah, I just don't know. It's true, Wardens, but you kind of don't. Like, you can split your army, but like, it doesn't matter. I know it sounds like really condescending, but it kind of doesn't. Yeah. You also don't actually have to defend the objective by sitting on it. You only have to have a fragment of your base over the top of it, and they can't destroy it until they claim it, which is when they push you fully off. So you can actually deploy narrow in the center of the board and actually cover both of the objectives with the corners of trays and play in a very narrow 4-unit formation in the middle of the board, and that would actually still defend all your objectives. But that's another thing that people don't think about. But yeah. I'm not saying that Banners and Butchery is a good game mode, right? I don't think it is. Like, I'm not going to sit here and defend it. I don't think it is a good game mode. I'll make that abundantly clear. I just think that this kind of like... It's like the random terrain, right? Oh, we're going to run random terrain. Oh, game's unplayable. We're going to run chosen terrain. Oh, game's unplayable. Oh, we're going to run Banners and Butchery. Oh, game's unplayable. It's like... It's not. It's the same for everyone, right? And we can all agree that the game mode is bad. And if everyone votes on it, and like it was seen, it was voted out in the end with Dance of Dragons taking its place. But like, in the end of the day, if people all agree they don't want to play it, they don't want to play it, that's fine. It is just interesting that no one was like, fuck it, why not? Especially in a team event. A team event where everyone else is like, no, I don't want to do this, no, I don't want to do this. If I was a team captain, and this is where you'd be really glad I was not there, Sophie, because I would have said, I am 100% fucking playing Banners and Butchery because everybody else doesn't want to, and that gives me an advantage. Fuck 'em.
This is how you get to the first place on stats. You just use everything you can to your advantage, and eventually people just don't want to play against you. No,
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
exaggerating. Like,
No,
this is like typical Mickey moment.
why the fuck not, you know?
He's gonna bully you mentally, and then he's gonna win off of that.
Nah, in the end of the day, like, obviously, I somewhat joke there. I think if most people like don't want to play it, you go, cool, yeah, whatever. You know, if it makes everyone else happier, then it does make sense. I just think it's interesting. That's all. And Carlo was right for pointing that out. It is interesting.
Yeah, it does. I feel like just the fact that most people didn't realize that it can occur was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would complain from the start if I knew from the beginning, but well, that's just my ignorance that I didn't care enough to check.
Yep. You should read more.
Oh, come on. Okay.
I'm great. I'm really happy. The next thing we're going to talk about is just something very quick. And you know what this is, Sophie, because we've already talked about it. It's the now mentioned Realms of Battle for Europe, which is being, well, I'll get it the right way around. Polish nationals is being replaced by the European Realms of Battle. So this is kind of like I was going to say this mirrors the Asian Realms of Battle that was seen last year in Asia Pacific, but that would just be lying. It's nothing like that. This is a European Realms of Battle for what I'm guessing Simon deem as the European champion, and it follows zero of the kind of standardized ways that Realms of Battle are being run as shown in Asia, and it's much more normal, right? I'm glad it's more normal. I'm a bit weirded out now that the Realm of Battle events in Asia Pacific and Europe, for example, are actually completely different events that are played completely differently. That's fucking weird that your champions are playing different games. Well, same game, but different, completely different style of event to achieve it. Not 3-list format for a start. Not this kind of like knockout thing that they're going on. There's no qualification for Realms of Battle Europe. You don't have to be a good player. If you just happen to live nearby and own a finger and can type in a credit card, you can get entry to this event. It's an open event. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's just not the same as the Asia Pacific, where you have to be winning events to go. You have to be invited. That jars me as a player, because this isn't. This is not War Factor or anyone who's running it. It's not their fault for this, by the way. This is Simon and the way they've done this. Is that as a player, it's now very unclear from an organized perspective of the tournament structure what a player is aiming for. Now, I'll be super honest. I've been thinking about selling armies and shit like that and getting out of all of this. No, not that I am now, and I'm not, revealing that to you right now as if like I'm going to leave the game all of a sudden tomorrow. But like, I was just thinking about it from more of a competitive sense of like, do I want to be competitive with this game anymore? Because I'm burning out, and it's not that I'm burnt out now, but it's just like, I don't know how many more years do I have to go through the cycle to prove any points. You know, is there any points left to be proven? Is there any point in doing this? Or am I just doing this because I want to enjoy the game? Or am I doing this because I want to be the best? And the thing is, eventually that gets old. Now, as a player who wants to try and go to big events, who wants to try and succeed, this is very much me personally. I look at this complete and utter lack of structure that makes any sense, and I'm like, what's my goal here? What is the goal of the organized play scene? What am I trying to achieve? Because it's not like I'm going, you know, I could go to US Nationals again this year, got invited back, and I go there and I win US Nationals, if I do, and if I win that, I get a slot to go to Asia Pacific Realms of Battle, and then I go there and I can win that. And it's like, that's kind of like this Asia, America, world champion type thing, don't know. But then I'm also sat here as like, is that just another invite tournament? Is the European Realms of Battle bigger in Simon's eyes, in the community's eyes, in whoever's eyes, because that's going to be a literal bigger event by more people? It's what we would normally call a bigger event, and probably more important on the meta. So am I looking at that? And am I just looking at, right, well, I'll not go to America. No point. Actually, no point going to America from a competitive player perspective. I would want to go there because I've got friends there. But I've got friends in Poland. I'd much rather go to the bigger event in Poland as a competitive player, because that competitive event is more important than another event elsewhere. But actually, I'm determining that importance as a player, which is fine. That's how every player has always determined it. But I don't know what the goal is. I don't know if going to European Realms of Battle is that a better competitive route in the eyes of Simon, or is it just a community perspective? It's really hard to explain because it sounds like I'm just trying to be like, what's more important to the community? But it's like, what's actually more important from a competitive angle when you've got two events of the same name, when they're just vastly different? Like, they're just vastly different. They're not the same at all. But Simon seem to indicate that they see them the same. That to me is a bit annoying as a player who wants to play competitively, because it's basically, as we've always done in stats, we're the ones assigning the importance and relevance of events. And that completely disestablishes an organised play perspective from Simon. The Invitational a few years back was, like, in my opinion, the most important event I could possibly go to and try and compete in. That was at the LGT, and I cared more about the Invitational. Infinitely more. The Invitational last year, I thought was more important than the LGT. And any other event, myself. This year, I'm obviously gearing up to the Invitational next year in March. I think the Invitational in March next year is bigger than and more important than any other event that's ever been run for this game, personally. That's what I care about. That is partially because I know Carlo. I care about his events. I enjoy going to the events he runs because he's a good TO, in my opinion. It's also because I believe that he, like a lot of other TOs out there, you know, people like that, they support the communities with the right amount of praise where it needs to go, to the painters, to the creators, to the people that matter to the community, the players. I think that he gets that right, and he's not the only one. Lots of people do. But Simon don't. Like, that's the irony, is that Simon don't do that from when we've been to the events, when we've seen the way they do their stuff. Yeah. This is all kind of geared up around negativity, and you notice not a single thing I've said is about War Factory, because War Factory hosting European Championships, if we just call it European Championships for a moment, War Factory hosting a European Championships If you just said that, that's like, cool. That's cool. That's good. That's good for the game. That's healthy. That's positive. A growing community that's one of the largest in the country, largest in the world, is hosting European Championships. This is perfect. This makes sense. I'd much rather it was an open kind of like you apply for it. They'd have probably won it anyway. Let's be brutally honest. They'd have probably won it just like the Olympics or whatever. They'd have probably applied and won it anyway. That's a preferential thing for me. But there being a European Championships in Poland, great. I have no idea why it's just it's just not the same thing as the other kind of hallmark or trademark name, if you will, from the game. And yeah, it's a good thing. It was obviously like a good thing. There are other issues, which is kind of the other problem, where the international attendance at last year's Polish Nationals, bearing in mind it was the biggest event ever, 171 players. They didn't have. It was like 23%, I think it worked out to be, international players. That's fine, but that's not like that's a good starting point. But if you only had 23% international players for European Championships, I'd consider that pretty bad. Like, personally, you should be aiming for more 50% for European Championships, or even higher. The Lowlands GT, as a prime example, had a higher percentage of international players than it had of local. As a really prime example, it was only 30 players, but that is a better representation of the European scene than 100 English people and 2 Spaniards. And that's kind of where I phrased a question to War Factory about this, is how do you raise the number of international players at these events? Not whatever events, what incentives are you trying to bring about? What are you bringing about that's truly going to attach and bring the Italian scene out? How are you going to get the Spaniards back? How are you going to get... The French had one person, Titus, who goes to a lot of stuff, and Titus is great. But how are you going to bring the actual good French players to the European Championships? The Germans, who were already going a few of them across, you'll probably get Larks or the likes again. How are you going to bring them across? How are you going to bring the Hungarians, who should be turning up anyway? You'd think it's quite close. How are you going to bring the Swedish, the Danish, the Finnish? Again, some of these players already turning up. How are you going to be bringing... I think it's most of them, isn't it? The UK, obviously. I'm trying to think of scenes where they've even had nationals now. That's covered most of them, though. I think. Czech nationals they have obviously had as well. Kazan Russian nationals. Yeah. I think there's a Czech nationals. I think there's definitely a Hungarian one. I'd have to look at the list. I might be wrong with Czech. It might be a different one. I apologise. But you've got Russian nationals coming up as well, like in Kazan this year. How are we going to incentivize these people turning up to these events? And the event being big is an incentive. It being European Realms of Battle is an incentive. But I'm not sold that the event isn't still going to be predominantly Polish individuals. And that's fine. Like that's I'm not saying that it being predominantly one nation is an issue. But I think it is for when you're supposed to be hosting what is, and this is quite important here, an officially sanctioned EU championship, which is basically what this is. That would be like, saying to Sophie, oh, you're coming to Cardiff in Wales for European Nationals. and it's next week. I know, obviously, there's a massive lead in time, so I'm not saying it is that. But, like, the chance of getting 100 players in Cardiff is just really unlikely. Like, at least Warsaw's in a good place. Warsaw's accessible. It's 7 months away, 7 months away when they announce this. So there's lots of lead in time. Anything that the funny thing is, as I say, War Factory have done nothing wrong. Not really. They've announced it in good time. They've given people fair warning. They're running a big event. I believe they're looking at 256 players, which has its own issues. Because at 256, you'd have to run 8 games in either a likely 4-4 or a probably more likely 5-3 split. And if we know anything about 5-3 splits, is 5 games in one day competitively drives people away from events, stops them turning up, and makes them retire early. We know that because we literally have seen it in the data. There's evidential proof of that being the case. So I've got issues there that I think that could, and that's a War Factory issue. But if that's what they want to do, they want to do it. I take my hands off the wheel, that's their decision. I don't agree. And then I go to the next point is, when does too many players, or when does adding more players to an event become a negative thing?
It's also like a problem because you don't really want your game to be limited by like the number community size.
No,
it's
you
like
don't.
At some point, some people are not gonna be able to attend, and it's like then it would be really bad if the event was like who gets there first. Even like let's assume it's only Polish event. It's like at some point we run out of spaces if we keep growing.
Yeah.
And then it's like really discouraging for people to not be able to attend Polish nationals when we have like 2 big events per year.
This is actually the other thing, though. You mention it there, and this is very important. You notice Sophie said it sucks for them not to be able to turn up to Polish nationals. Now, obviously, you'll have space requirements. That's always going to be true. But actually, exactly what Sophie said there is the most important thing. It really sucks that people can't attend Polish nationals. Sophie just used words that don't make any sense to me, because there isn't a Polish nationals this year. There is a European Championship.
I mean, I hope you get what I meant. It's like
I do, but actually that's the point. Is that as a Polish player, you're hosting European nationals. This is a positive thing. You are now competing with the best of the best from everywhere else as well, in theory, in Europe, for the title of your own national champion, and while you're at it, European champion. So I'm not saying that it's like a good or bad thing, but it's almost like undermining the Polish national scene by not having an independent event. It would be like us saying that the winner of LGT a few years ago was the Invitational winner, and they're just the same event, and it actually devalues both because of that. The Invitational, as Carlo's got set up this year running in March, is its own thing for a reason. Not because it couldn't be attached to anything else, because it's not the same. And that's again, is not War Factory again's issue. It's a positive thing that they've got the name, but I actually think it's a bit of a discreditation to Polish players not having an alternative event, which we'll get onto in a minute. But I do think that's a bit of a shame, you know.
I will steal the spotlight for a second to answer, because there have been some questions regarding the event. Back club, yeah, we are playing 8 rounds. It's like for sure. And I don't think it's gonna be just 256 players. I've heard Mark talk about 300 players. We don't have the details yet, but we'll see how it comes out.
And this is this is where I will add that the current system for Song can't deal with that very well.
Yeah, and it's also like the problem because I genuinely have no idea how to solve it. Like, it seems you cannot have just that big events. At this point, it becomes more viable to have two separate events.
Yes,
I think in the long run, if the community is gonna keep growing, you should just at some point split it into multiple events.
or you have to, ironically, abandon the way that Simon does event scoring because it doesn't work and it doesn't balloon up to that number of players.
But the game is not designed around that.
Correct.
That's a problem. Like 40k can do this.
Yeah. And this is, you're starting to see the limitations. The game isn't designed for this number of players in a weekend. It isn't. And where previously we wanted to break the 100 barrier, wanted to break the 120, the 128 is a good number. 256 is doable. I think if you go beyond 256, you are introducing real issues into the scoring in the game, the mechanics in the game. One of the things that people don't realise, perhaps, that last year's Polish Nationals, when 171 people turned up, it would have been possible after the rounds that they played, there were 2 undefeated players, and the winner would have been the person with the better tiebreakers. But actually a fluke loss happened with a player playing down, meaning that didn't happen. In the style of event that we have going on, it is not satisfying to have one undefeated player at the end of an event. More than one undefeated player at the end of a big event. Because then you're deciding these titles by tiebreakers. Now, while that doesn't matter from our perspective as people who watch a competitive scene, we don't go, oh, that player came second with tiebreakers, they're worse, whatever. It's not how we analyse it as a community. It is how these things are analysed more by the game developers and things like that. So, just bear that in mind.
Yeah, and also Joker asked about banners and bollocks, and all I can say is that I haven't heard anything about us having to use official document for that yet. I generally don't have much specific info. Like no one does have much specific info about this event yet. We are just starting to announce it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there were talks about it being 5-3, but I would have to check, and my Facebook doesn't seem to be working, so I cannot say that for sure now.
That's fine.
And
this
even if so,
early stuff.
It's still not confirmed.
Yeah. Yep. We don't. Wait, put it like this, guys. We don't even know when ticket sales are on yet. So we don't even know when tickets are even going to be on sale or anything like that. So booking. I mean, I know they said you could book the hotel for the days, potentially telling people to go do that, but I think that's risky as fucking balls.
We've also been talking about splitting, saving some space for international. It's we are aware of the issue with disappropriate attendance,
Mm-hmm.
and we want to work around that. It's we don't. I'm just referee. I don't really have that much specifics. I know Mark. I did talk with Mark about having Discord dedicated for this because Facebook doesn't work. Come on, let's switch to Discord. And we know that most international players are easier to get there than on Facebook.
That's actually the other thing as well. The whole thing was currently, at least, and the whole thing has been in Poland run through Facebook, which is not a good way of communicating information to the international competitive players because they don't know about these things on Facebook. Because if you don't know, if you actually haven't been on Facebook for the last week, you wouldn't see War Factory's comments and you wouldn't even see the announcement. So if you haven't been on Facebook for the last week, you would actually have no idea that this is running if it wasn't for Sophie and Schuster posting about it in Discords. That's a marketing thing, but it is a big issue. And that's not really Mark's fault, but it kind of is. It's just because there's a lot of players here who don't use Facebook.
And it seems to be working in Poland, so it's like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's really hard to integrate.
Yeah.
Those two different communities. And it's like just the fact that we just started using Chosen Terrain.
Yeah,
I think it shows that, like, there is some difference between a European and Polish community.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on removing that, but it's not that easy.
It's difficult. It's not easy, and I only represent a small part of that as well. And my opinions are by no means close to what I would expect other people to have thoughts about. But I was actually really glad that someone randomly spotted it in Discord. ATVC, I think that's right, ATVC. He spotted it in Discord and posted a response. Now ATVC is a Italian player, and I was really glad he saw that, because it meant that from an Italian perspective they were aware of the event that was going on and that they might attend. But there was actually a very good chance they might not even be that aware of the event if it wasn't for that. As an example.
Yeah. I'll for sure be trying to keep up the online community with that. It's like, if there will be Discord, there is like big chance I'm gonna be somewhat responsible for that. Because, well, we would love to see many international players there.
Mm-hmm.
And one more issue. It's still not settled yet, but we did try to have chess clocks on team tournament, but ultimately it didn't work out because we didn't announce it like until a few days before the tournament, and most of the people were like, cool, but kind of late. And I think reasonably Mark gave in, and we didn't use. Well, there were no required chess clocks on the tournament, but for this tournament we are probably going to be using them. It's
interesting. It's interesting using clocks in a tournament, because I know a lot of people don't like it.
Yeah, it's also like a problem with driving away players, because like this is kind of the place where casual and competitive players start to diverge. Because if we want to have competitive players, we need cloaks, but it might drive some people away. Yeah. So there is like really a lot of tough questions to answer for War Factor, on how to approach those issues.
Yeah, I wish them all the best with it all. I really do. I hope it goes really well. But this is the thing, like, I'm sat here as a player, and I'm not like, oh yeah, I'm looking really forward. I'm not that excited by this. That's the funny thing. This announcement hasn't excited me that much. I've kind of gone, right, okay. And that is what it is. That's not War Factory's fault. They've done what they think is a good idea. They've moved it in the right direction. But I, as a person, am not excited. That doesn't mean everyone here shouldn't be. Be excited about it. Going to a big event is going to be amazing. You'll enjoy it. But I'm not super stoked. So we'll see. We will see.
I really don't like those allegations against Free Folk players. Like, come on, if you are playing night activation, at least you should know how to do it.
You've
fast.
never seen me and Jacob play a game of Free Folk Mirror against each other? You need to go back and watch me and Jacob playing Free Folk Mirrors against each other, which we are speeding through the game way faster than you might think. Because if, like, good players can play quick. Like, real quick. Yeah.
I played Free Folk at team event, and I didn't really have any issues finishing the game in time. Just play fast.
Yeah, just play fast.
Seriously.
All right then. Should we talk about the last talking point for today?
Yeah, sure.
Goodbye, everyone.
Do you want to?
I'm a dicko. So, the last talking point is specifically what Sophie is here for, although she's here for many things. It's this, the Hegemonalia Grand Tournament. Take it away.
Yep. So, well, as I said, we generally don't have many big tournaments in Poland. And this year I have been approached by guys from Hegemon Shop to help them organize a, Song of Ice and Fire tournament. And this one, well, the difference is that it's all on me. They just provide me with space and awards for the players, but like the details on how to run event are on me. So I get to make decisions there. It happens on June 8th in Łódź, Poland, near Łódź, both Poland. And we would love to see some international attendance if there are any people that would like to come. The space is unlimited for this moment. Well, unlimited. We have 3 tournaments going on there, and we don't know which will have how many players. But so far, from what I heard, the guys from Hegemon Shop are really willing to help international travelers come there. We have some people from Germany signed up for the event, and from what I heard, the Hegemon Shop actually went out and helped them to get a transport to the place, and like help them find a rental car and sort everything out so that they can get there easily without having to navigate Polish websites. So if anyone is interested in coming, we would love to see you there. There is some time to sign up, but well, if anyone is interested, also please reach out to us as fast as possible because we don't know how many places will be there.
Cool.
Yep.
Awesome.
What can I say? We are playing with chess cloaks. If someone cares about it enough to not come. The entrance is rather pricey, I think, for a song tournament. But like what you get for that price seems really like a good price to pay because you get meals, dinner on first day, breakfast on second, snacks and drinks throughout whole event, and a guarantee of physical reward from organizers. And from what I heard last year, because this is actually second time this tournament is run, but last year it had some problems, like being announced a month prior and having 14 people show up in order. This year we are hoping to improve it, and so far we have I think double that signed up, which is promising. I think we are all happy that there are 20 players there. And from what I talked about with people, it seems that it might grow. 26, I think?
26, yeah, 26.
Yeah, because there are a lot of people that might be planning to come but haven't signed up yet. So if anyone is interested, please sign up to the tournament because they might give away our places to 40k players, which I think would be double loss for humanity.
That was great. I love that. That tickled me. All right then. Cool. Awesome. Do you know what I like this? Do you know what I like about this? This is what I would call a standard tournament, right? And I was talking to Sophie about exactly this. Is that the team tournament and Polish Nationals were the only two two-day events, basically, that were being run in Poland previously. And what we saw is Poland has a lot of these competitive, small, secular communities that then come together for these larger events. There is some travel between them, but there isn't actually that many big events for the Polish community. Whereas I look at the UK, and we've got the 3 big GTs in the year of LGT, Scotland, and Wales that have now been running for 3 or 4 years each. And we've recently had Darlington added on as the Northern GT, which is ran last year and running again this year. And we've got 4 big 2-day weekend events across the UK. Was 3 a year, is now 4 a year. And that's not including anything like the team event that they put on in Darlington last year. That's not including anything like the Invitational that Carlos is putting on next year. So you're talking about a big event every roughly 3 months, not a big event every 6 months or every year, which is what the case has been like in Poland. And for the most active community, that is what actually surprised me the most, is that there weren't options when it came to these larger events. Maybe that is actually ultimately what makes them more successful, by not having those options. But I think having another one is probably not a terrible idea. Myself, I think it's good having another one.
Yeah, especially that like the date is nice. It's like kind of between them, like equally between, almost.
Yeah.
I'm really glad I got approached by Hegemon about this because, well, I wanted to run two-day tournament for some time, but finding a venue, getting awards is like a lot of stuff to do for a private person. So it's way easier if War Factory does it for us, because like who's gonna rent a big ass room to just random people? And when a shop does it, it's like way easier. It's like, well, yeah. We have a Discord dedicated to this, where I post everything related to that. I will allow myself to post it in the chat. So if anyone is interested, you can check it out.
Cool.
Cool.
Awesome. I'll post that in the chat. Did you post it in the chat?
I'm pretty sure I did, but maybe
it doesn't come up on my end. I can't see it at the moment. It might not let you actually, because I may have stopped allowing people from typing things in the chat.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because of sketchy people who send us links to.
There you have it.
Sexy girls. That's the links we normally get posted in chat. If you don't turn it off, you get spammed by bots. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And the links they always sell are like, check out this hot girl here, and check out this hot man here, and check out this something here, because that's what bots do.
Maybe this would encourage more people to join the Discord. Because so far it's like half of what signed up for the stats. But yeah.
Cool. Brilliant. I have another mini announcement. This is actually not an announcement. This is a favour. West Coast Bannerman, Carl, who's longtime friend and absolutely great guy to go drinking with. He's kind of restarted his YouTube channel, West Coast Bannerman, and wants to do kind of light content around a load of different stuff for the game. He's done some kind of interesting stuff already in the last few weeks. Do check it out, obviously. But the reason I'm sending this is that he puts out little Google Forms that you can fill in. Link in the chat. And you can go on and kind of like fill in a kind of questionnaire based on some topic that he's got going. In this case, it's top 10 terrain uses, or best uses of terrain. I think he's closed it, so I'll have to reopen it. I'll have to ask him to reopen it, but he probably will. And feel free to do that. But I might be posting links like that on future episodes as well, if he does send me any. I forgot to for the first one he sent me. I apologise, Carl. But yeah. Apart from that, it's a Tuesday.
West Coast Bannerman from the West Coast Bannerman channel.
Yes. It's a Tuesday, so enjoy the rest of your week. I would show you all the tournaments that are coming up, but to be honest, I'm tired. And I want to go and quickly nip to the shop before it closes at 10 o'clock.
No way.
I know.
First time in the history of this podcast.
We've got an event in Schweiz, which is Switzerland.
It sounds like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Swiss for Switzerland. Cool. Right, I'm not just being stupid. An event in Russia. Oh, wait. No, hang on. Wait, that's miles away. Why are they the next ones? Oh, that starts... Right, Jesus Christ, I can't read. I was reading the end dates as the start dates. You can tell I'm tired. Got an event in Switzerland starting up, season 5 of their league, I'm guessing. An event in Russia this week. An event in Poland, in Krakow. An event in Valencia. An event in Wrocław, Poland, at the Balta Guys, which is not you. Is it you? That is you.
Yes, this happens to be me.
Yeah. Sorry, my mind is gone. An event in Russia again this weekend. Another event in Russia called The Great Opportunities. I hope there's some opportunities had there. An event in Gardon in France this weekend as well as an event, a Grand Clash in Quebec, Canada, which is one of the larger Canadian events of the season. So that's going to be interesting to see how it comes out there. The Ohio Regional is also this weekend for the US Nationals circuit. So the Ohio Regional is taking place this weekend from the guys in Sunday Slaughter, Brunswick, Ohio. Event in Hurricane. Cool. In West Virginia. An event in Lexington. An event in Tempe? At Gamers Guild, Arizona. I've never heard of Tempe before. Tampa, not Tempe. An event in Helsinki, the Dreadful Open. That'll be the guys, absolute legends in the likes of Timu and that lot. An event in Germany at the Battle of Raincastle. An event in Olsztyn in Poland. An event which I'm guessing is Spanish. I have no idea.
Check the players.
Check the players. Check the players. Check the Spanish. Yeah, cool. An event in Spain as well. And another event in Poland. That's a league starting up in the Poznan area. An event in Trevorz in Poland. An event in Gdansk in Poland. An event in Calgary in Alberta, Canada this weekend as well. Canadians, 2 events. Wow. An event in Krakow, but that's a TTS event. League type event happening in Krakow. The Conquest of Dubai, that's next weekend. Cool. Right, that's Dubai's big event that they've got running.
That's really a lot.
$23 events this weekend, which is way back to normal. We had a few dearth weekends before Easter. 23 events this weekend.
It's nice to see the game being active, at least somewhere.
Just being active again. Just being active. We always have
Turns out people enjoy the stats.
Yeah, they do.
Maybe.
People enjoy the game. Well, we'll leave it there this week, guys. I do want to nip to the shop and I've got 15 minutes. But the last thing I wanted to say before you all disappear is I just wanted to congratulate Rich Enline, the Canadian fellow that he is, for winning the Canadian online tournament. I'm big friends with Rich. I like Rich a lot. He's a great guy. And having met him now when we were at US Nationals, he's a very pleasant human being, just like Clarence. And I just wanted to congratulate him on his win in the Canadian or US time zone TTS event. So, congrats, mate. Well done. And I guess I'll see you next week.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. And yeah, see you around.
See you around, guys. Thanks a lot for everyone tuning in. See you later.
Ready? Aim! There's too many! Anyone see my mammoth?
Stubby!